Well, just when so many people around the world felt that the threat of COVID was fast evaporating, it now emerges that there are a couple of new strains which are in a sense variants of Omicron itself, which are causing a great deal of infection. It's now out in large numbers, not just in the United Kingdom, but in China as well. In fact, we're seeing very significant lockdowns across China. What exactly is the implication of this? We're joined by Professor Devi Sridhar. Thank you, Devi, very much for being with us. We've always spoken about how mutations are bound to take place. In terms of this particular mutation, the one that we are seeing in the United Kingdom and the one that's now being reported in China, are they essentially the same?
Yeah, I think right now WHO is saying this is not a variant of concern yet. It is similar to Omicron. The main issue is it looks like it's more transmissible, estimates about 10% more transmissible, which is why we are seeing this surge in cases everywhere in the world, including here in Britain, as well as in China and other places too.
That's actually quite frightening in a sense, because Omicron was horrifically transmissible, fortunately not as dangerous as Delta. To have something even more transmissible, what do we know about the science or the way this particular strain moves or attaches itself, which part of the cell?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that there are multiple ways that this can enter the cell and in different parts of the body, which is why we are seeing it being able to reproduce and also shed onto other people. The real message to everyone from a public health perspective is that this virus will find you. Right. It is pretty impossible to avoid it. So make sure you're vaccinated. If you can, get a booster so that when you are exposed, you're protected against the really harsh impacts it can bring as a disease.
It's now been a couple of months around the world that we've seen Omicron, and so many millions of people around the world would have had Omicron, and most of them would have gotten better. Is there science now on the efficacy of the existing vaccines against Omicron? I ask this because that would also be particularly relevant with the newer strains.
Yeah, so the great news with this new strain is that it looks like vaccines are just as effective in terms of preventing severe disease and death. And so if you are vaccinated, you have the same protection against this new variant. If you have been vaccinated, you do not need a new vaccine or a different vaccine. So that is good news. But on the flip side, it is causing a wave. It is finding people that, let's say, are vulnerable or elderly or who are more cautious. And that is presenting challenges for hospitals, because those people we know, even being fully vaccinated, might still have to go into hospital for some support.
And is that what you're seeing in the United Kingdom in terms of numbers? Once again, are hospitals are seeing a larger number of people going in?
Yes, unfortunately. So here in Scotland, our wave of hospitalizations is the highest it's ever been. But fortunately, people are recovering. So our death rates are much lower. People are staying shorter stints in hospital too and not going into ICU. The ICU pressure isn't there. It's more general hospital pressure. The other thing we're seeing is very high rates, 1 in 12, 1 in 11, 1 in 13. These are surveys done in the community where they go and they test randomly to try to get a sense of how much virus is there. And those are showing probably the highest levels we've ever had across Britain. And now we're hoping in the weeks ahead, maybe that might tailor off and we'll start to see a decline.
Are we seeing reinfections as well?
Yes, unfortunately, we're seeing people getting it 2 times, 3 times. There are unfortunately even, several dozen people who have been tracked having it 4 times. This is something that will get you again. The hope, though, is your symptoms will be milder, that you can manage it better. But yes, this is a virus that just because you have once, it doesn't mean you won't get it again. Usually it's a new variant. So people who had the wild type might have got Delta. People with Delta might have gotten Omicron. And even now we're seeing that people who have got Omicron might get a slight tailored different one. So yes, reinfections are happening.
And again, it's something we've discussed in the past, but I think it's relevant again. Where is the science as far as getting a new vaccine in terms of something which deals with the various variants which we've seen so far, and perhaps deals with COVID in a more holistic manner? Is the science available to actually develop that silver bullet?
Well, so pharma companies have been very clear. They don't want to chase variants, because if they chase Delta, it'd be too late by now. If they chased Omicron, who knows what we're going to have in a few months. So they've said we actually want to get ahead of it. And I know Bill Gates, through the Gates Foundation, Wellcome Trust, are trying to work towards a sterilizing vaccine. That is a vaccine that can mean that once you're vaccinated, you cannot get infected. It's what we have against measles, mumps, rubella, a number of other diseases. And that's kind of the big prize now in the next 6 to 8 months. They're hoping, can we reach that goal? Or with this, does it mutate too much? And so does that mean that we'll always be chasing it, a bit like the flu, where we try to match and predict what flu strain will be circulating. Some years we get it right, some years the efficacy is a bit lower.
And what are the signs so far as the science is concerned of this sterilizing vaccine?
Well, it seems like it's very difficult. No teams are very close to it. It seems like most vaccines across the world, whether it's the Chinese vaccines or Russian, are good against severe illness, but stopping infection seems to be a big problem with the virus that mutates so much. And also because it's circulating across the world, all it takes is for this to circulate somewhere in Latin America or, in the Pacific or East Asia, and you get a new variant, and that kind of puts you back in terms of your vaccines. It's not as stable, let's say, as the measles virus. And so that's the real difficulty now. Of course, science has come a long way, but that's kind of the prize. They're saying, can we do something we haven't been able to do before? But there's no early results yet we can point to say we might have that next.
All right, Devi, thank you very much for speaking to us. Once again, sounding caution. I think that we just need to be careful about this. It's not going away anytime fast. Thank you very much indeed, Devi, for being with us.
Thank you.